friends, welcome to the Adventures of Blink. I am of course Blink, and you can find my blog right here. If you find this content to be useful, helpful, or just plain fun, make sure you leave a like. That lets me know that I hit the mark and I can do more stuff like that. And if you're really excited about what's coming up, make sure you hit follow on the blog and subscribe here on YouTube so that you'll get notified about upcoming episodes. Here we are, we've reached the end of season 4. I admit I didn't fully expect that I was going to be doing this consistently this long. I kind of hoped that I would, but it's a different sort of animal when you're first getting things started. You don't know what's going to work and what's not, and whether you're going to keep it up. But I have enjoyed every moment of this journey, and I hope that you have too. I'm glad that you came along with me for it. But let's turn our attention to the Gilded Rose. Here at the end of season 4, we're celebrating our victory over the Gilded Rose, the spaghetti code nightmare that we've been working on to improve the developer experience within an application. Let's take a look at our status, shall we? All right, so as you see, we've got all green lights, and I am super excited by this because we didn't really even do anything complex. Just a few episodes ago, we had a unmaintainable spaghetti code base that was just hard to deal with. And now we have something that we can not only make changes easily to, but we can hand off to other developers easily, and they can make changes quickly too. That's a huge win. Now, I want you to take a second and think about two things. First of all, how fast we did that work. It was only a couple episodes here. I mean, this is episode 5 that we've been dealing with the Gilded Rose, right? And so 4 episodes really of actual coding work have turned into, a complete turnaround for the application. That's fantastic. The other thing I want you to consider is how simple the work was. We didn't do anything overly complex. We didn't do anything super arcane. We just took basic principles and applied them consistently. And that's what software engineering is really all about. Do the fundamentals well, and you don't have to worry about the heroics later on. So what are some of the things we fixed? The README and the docs. We improved our documentation and made it easy for a new person to pick up. We worked on the setup and install process. Here was about managing the few dependencies that we had in a requirements.txt file. We made it very simple for someone to pick up the code base on a new box and get it up and running quickly. Tests and coverage, that was a great episode. My favorite personally out of the entire series. The idea that we could build a set of guardrails around the original working product, even though it was messy and unmaintainable, building those guardrails let us know if the changes we made broke something. So we gave ourselves safety and security in the ability to make changes quickly. Code clarity. We broke the logic up because it was just a big mess of spaghetti. There was effectively one function that did everything, and we've now taken out parts of that logic and made it more modular. We've made it more easy to read, and you can sort of follow along more quickly when things are organized well. Tooling and developer experience. We added a linter. We took some time to clean up the things that it found, and we talked about the ability to make code consistently formatted well. And then finally, onboarding speed. This is really what most of this journey has been about. Because what we're trying to do is make sure that if a new developer joins the team and has to pick up this code, they can just go get the work done. They don't have to spend an inordinate amount of time trying to figure out what's going on or what the guy was doing here. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Why did you do it that way? All of that stuff should be documented. Decision-making points should be included in those comments. All that stuff is right there wrapped up easily for them to just be able to consume it. And that makes them more effective. That makes our team more effective. And that's how we get work done. So you might be looking at the improvements we made to this code and thinking, we didn't actually succeed at everything. And you'd be right. The goal of this exercise was to get us back to a point of stability. We had a messy code base and no testing and no safety in the ability to make changes and deliver them. So those things needed to be addressed first. That's the technical debt that we're paying off. But now that we've done that, there are still some massive improvements that could be made to the way the Gilded Rose operates. For instance, as you look through the code, we have this idea of handling specific items in their own methods. So update quality is down here, and it passes out, that one of the things we did was to make the code branch out to these other methods when certain items appeared. And that was because we only had a few. But I think what we'll find is as the type of inventory in the Gilded Rose increases, we're going to see that this isn't really a sustainable model. We should be looking at ways to modularize further, and in particular, not to just have exceptions for things. So instead of having handle aged brie or handle backstage pass, what we would do is just make the update quality method itself very simple and straightforward. It's going to handle the inventory item, and then the inventory item is probably going to need to change. So if you look down here at the bottom, we have the item class, and it has very little data in it. And the original instructions were don't change this class. But I think there's some benefit in refactoring the way the class would work. So we would probably want to think about making some of those quality decisions rules that live inside the item class, so that when we're up here in update quality, it's just for each item in the list, go update its quality based on whatever rules it has available to it, and let the logic, which is based on what item it is, like that's the way this works, is the identity of the item determines how it's going to behave in terms of quality and sell-in date and all that stuff. So all of that should be part of the item class, logically speaking. That's probably a change that I would propose to the team, is that we don't want to just have things floating around in these different classes. We should be looking to centralize all the rules about items in the item class. So that would be a big change we would look at. Another thing that I would want to do is get away from the idea that we're using the name of the item to control the class. So right now we do all these checks based on, the actual name of the item. And if it's misspelled for some reason, if somebody bumped a button when they were typing it into the database, whatever the case may be, that item name is going to become a problem for us. We should be looking at a way to probably put an ID number on that to say, hey, we have, maybe ID number 7 is aged brie. And then it's much easier to link to item number 7 than it is to link to an item with a string that says aged brie. So that's just some basic data design that we should be considering. How would we store this information? Right now it's all done in text files and over JSON. And ostensibly that's because there's an API that's calling the database on our behalf. That would be something that we would be looking to change, and we would need to talk to that API team about storing the data differently on the back end, and then exposing the ability for us to use some of those other fields like an ID number in the future. So that would be something that I would look at changing. And those changes would make it so that it's even easier to make edits to the code, because then we can ultimately get to the point where most of our changes in the code actually happen in the data, and they don't affect the code itself. The code just says, oh, look, this is the data that was passed in. Now I know how to treat this item. That would be an ideal, because it actually decreases the amount of downtime in your application. If your app is running 24/7 and serving this data back and forth, then you don't want to take it down, because that's going to affect whether customers can do things. And so if we can let the code be more or less just a machine that operates on the data, and then we can make the changes in the data, we now have the ability to do things on the fly that we couldn't do before. So there's still some benefit to refactoring further and to thinking more about the design of the Gilded Rose. And those would be the add-on steps that would follow. The important thing is we made it easy to make those changes because now we've captured the behavior in the test suite, we've made things easier to read, and it's much easier to get into those changes as opposed to before when it was just a wildly messy spaghetti code example. Despite having multiple opportunities for improvement still before us, we can still declare mission success here. We made a huge difference. We made it easier to do the work. That improvement needs to be celebrated, but only for a moment. You see, we're already starting to get some comms traffic. There's a bigger target. There's a higher stakes mission. Season 5 is on the way, and I hope that you'll come along for me for the next adventure of Blink. We'll see you next time.